Yo, it's your homeboy Kiiro in the building. Welcome to episode 73 of my One Piece discussion series. In this episode, I talk about what I think will happen in One Piece chapter 758. There might be a bit of background noise here and there, but I'll try my best to minimize that shit. I usually can't hear it while it's happening, so I apologize. Yeah, so let's start. Before I start, I need to make some corrections. Or first off, I have an announcement, then I'll start the corrections. Okay, so the announcement goes like this. I'm going to start releasing my videos later on in the day because I'll wait for the updated translations before, I put out my video. Now, the updated translations aren't always necessarily correct. For the most part, they are, but that's not always the case. And sometimes, in fact, very often, if there is a mistake in the early translations, if you have enough common sense, you can pretty much put two and two together and, guess what they're trying to say. But sometimes the early translations are so full of shit that they just tell you complete garbage, like what happened in this last chapter with the whole Fuji thing. So yeah, that's pretty much the first announcement. I'm gonna be doing my videos later on in the day, or at least I'll be releasing them later on in the day because of the new translations. And now for the corrections. So there's three things I need correct. Because I did read a bit of I reread the stuff I rambled the most about. So basically, first of all, in the updated translations, the Marines said, with attacks of this magnitude, we cannot pursue the Straw Hats, and that is very understandable, and I think that's the correct translation. Compared to what they said before, which is with this level of which was this level of attack is greater than the Straw Hats, which again is also understandable, but the update makes more sense because basically what they're saying is with all this gravity and Sabo greatness, they can't go after Luffy because these attacks are way too dangerous. While they're trying to go after Luffy, they might get hit by a fierce tiger or some fire fist or some shit, The second thing isn't a correction on my part, it's me correcting other people, and it's basically in the updated thing, in the early translation, Fujitora says gravity sword. In the future one, or at least the updated one, the later translation, he says graviton or gravity sword. Like he sort of says it as one word rather than two separate words. But the point is, they're both the same thing. It's just sort of the way they put it. Like the graviton still means gravity sword. It's just fused as one word rather than two separate words. And the third and final thing is once again a correction, but on my part, and this is the whole thing Fujitora said about gambling, and I made theories about could he have some crazy attack, because of the different magnitudes. Maybe one is weakest, 8 is the highest based on the dice roll, that type of shit. And it's complete hogwash. I've seen the updated translations, and the newer translations seem more accurate to me, or it makes a bit more sense. So Fujitora didn't say anything as reckless as he's about to, basically commit suicide. All he said was, somebody's gonna die if the other person doesn't go all out. Now, one thing that's interesting about this nonetheless is he could be talking about Doflamingo and Luffy. If you watched the Sabo, if you saw this last chapter, Sabo was scruffy and Fujitora was fresh. He looked like he came out of a sauna and he had a massage too. Like he was looking like a model. His face was clean and shit. And the reason why is Fujitora's observation haki is ridiculous. He has the best observation haki we have seen in the entire series. This man could tell, he can tell the weather and he's blind. He can predict the weather and he's blind. And when Nami attacked, he was surprised because he can usually tell the weather because of the observation haki. Also, bear in mind, he could tell where the Straw Hats were going to next because of the observation haki is on that scale. So he'd be like, okay, we're going to Dressrosa. Okay, we're going to Greenbait. All of that is through observation haki. You also have to consider this man is blind. How does he know that he's putting down the meteor and not the moon? Observation haki, bro. It is possible that maybe his attack simply isn't strong enough to pull down the moon. Okay, we could argue about that. But just in general, this man's the scale for him to know where the Straw Hats are going, that means he has island-wide observation haki, and it's ridiculous. It really is. Even when Zoro was about to fight Doflamingo and he came from nowhere and blocked that attack, he was on a different island. Yeah, even when they were on a different island, this man uses observation haki and he could tell that shit was going on. So people, just the bottom line is don't sleep on Fuji's observation hacking. That shit is ridiculous. Yeah, so moving on, I've done the announcement and the correction. Now for my actual chapter prediction. Sorry about the background noise there, but it's gonna be a simple chapter, but it's not gonna be as good as this week's at 757. What's basically gonna happen is Oda's gonna cover. He's gonna cover. There's gonna be story progression concerning a bit of the fodder, a bit of the irrelevant shit. That's what he's gonna do, and then towards the end of the chapter, right before the cliffhanger, we're gonna get something concerning either Doflamingo and Bellamy or Law and Luffy once again. That's in the best case scenario. In the worst case scenario, we don't even get that. We just get a bunch of King, Rico and God Usopp and all that other irrelevant shit. But basically, that's the majority of what's gonna happen in the chapter, and that's my prediction. If we want to go even more optimistic, then we might get a bit of Burgess, who I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not sure, but I really think he's underground and he's not up with Doflamingo or anything. And I'm gonna go more detail on that, but that's for a different video. Well, another problem is Treble and Bellamy, because let's be honest, Luffy's just gonna blink and beat him. Luffy can one-shot Treble too, because Treble's flammable, and Red Hawk is gonna, incinerate him. Plus, Red Hawk is a hacky attack too, so you can't use the excuse that he's a logger, so he's gonna survive. And I mean, obviously he's not gonna get killed because One Piece, but nonetheless, Luffy can one-shot him. In theory, Law can beat him easily, but not necessarily a one-shot. But basically, the point is Treble isn't a problem. The reason why Treble will be a problem is because Luffy's a dumb character, or he's very, it's easy to fool him, and Luffy's gonna charge and do something reckless, fall for a trap that Treble helped set up. Now Luffy is stuck and they're in trouble, and that's how Oda's gonna stall while he catches it, while there's a bit of story progression in the other stuff. But basically what I'm saying is, until Luffy and Law are looking at Doflamingo, like they can actually see him and they're in the same room as him and shit, do not expect fights to start. If fights start, that means that in that chapter or in the next chapter, Law and Luffy are going to see Doflamingo, because basically once that fight starts, that means all the other fights are going to start as well, and it's going to be a sort of Water 7 situation where we have the weakest fights showcased first as there's a bit of story progression. Actually, yeah, I think the fact that Usopp's fight hasn't been set up yet, that's really what's stopping him. Because if you think of all the other Straw Hats, Robin has a fight set up, Luffy has his, Zoro has his, and it's just Usopp left really. So yeah, we're basically chilling for Usopp's fight to be set up, and his fight is probably also going to be the first fight since he's the weakest character from the Straw Hats that's still on Dressrosa, or at least in my opinion. So yeah, even we saw the Sabo and we saw a bit of Sabo and Fujitora, but right now it's still a bunch of clashing. I mean, he's not hurt badly, but his face is scruffy, we can say that much. But it's still, nothing much has really happened in terms of that fight. Zoro, he hasn't one-shot Pika yet, but I'm not even gonna think about that fight, because Zoro's just gonna beat his ass pretty convincingly. I don't see what Pika's gonna do against Zoro that he hasn't done already. There's nothing he can do that Zoro can't slash. But yeah, I do look forward to Oda showcasing Zoro's abilities and all that. But yeah, I think I've covered the important stuff. Next week's chapter, I'm not optimistic. We're gonna get a bunch of catch up. In the best case scenario, Oda will set up Usopp's fight, because that means that legit we're gonna start the actual fights, because that means once he sets up Usopp's fight, he has set up every single character that can possibly fight on the island, and so Oda really has nowhere else to run in terms of the fights. And don't worry too much about the Law and Luffy thing, because think back to Water 7. Luffy didn't start fighting Rob Lucci the moment that Chopper started his fight or anything like that. Those fights really started a bit earlier, because that's just the way time works and all that. But yeah,